By the power vested on me as the king of this kingdom, Queen Zara is dethroned.
Years have passed since Zara became queen, and the village that was once mocked as the bald village now stands tall among neighboring kingdoms. Peace rests on the land like early morning dew. Zara rules with kindness, patience, and wisdom far beyond her age. She listens before she speaks. She forgives before she judges. Under her reign, the people learn what it means to be united. Slowly, something miraculous begins to happen. It does not happen suddenly, and it does not happen loudly. It begins quietly, in the huts of new mothers. One woman gives birth to a baby girl, and days later, soft strands of hair appear on the child's head. Another woman notices the same thing weeks later. At first, people are afraid to speak of it. They whisper behind closed doors. They touch the children's heads as if afraid the hair might disappear. But the hair remains. Not all girls are born with hair, but some are. Little by little, hope returns to the village. The elders sit under the old tree and nod slowly. They know what this means. The curse that once defined their existence is weakening. The land responds as well. Crops grow fuller. The soil stays moist even during dry seasons. The river no longer dries up unexpectedly. Traders from far villages visit again. Songs return to the nights. Laughter becomes common. The bald village is no longer ashamed of its name. Queen Zara walks through the village often, greeting the people, smiling at children, blessing mothers. She wears her crown lightly and her long hair proudly. To many, her hair is no longer just beauty. It is a symbol of truth, destiny, and restoration. But while the village heals, bitterness survives in one forgotten corner. Mama Vero is alive. She is not imprisoned, and she is not banished. But she is forgotten. She lives at the edge of the village, where dry bushes grow and fences fall apart. Her hut is small and quiet, far from the palace drums and celebration songs. From there, she watches everything. She watches the palace grow brighter. She watches the people smile again. She watches children run freely. Each sight fills her with anger. Mama Vero does not feel regret. She does not feel shame. Instead, her heart grows harder with each passing day. She believes life has cheated her. She believes Zara stole what belonged to her family. She believes the village praised the wrong woman. To her, Zara's success is not destiny. It is mockery. In her heart, Mama Vero tells herself that if Zara had never been born, her daughter Vero would have been queen. She convinces herself that the village owes her something. The more peace she sees, the more pain she feels. At night, Mama Vero talks to herself. She reminds herself of the humiliation she suffered. She remembers how people once bowed to Zara while looking away from her. She remembers how her name became a whisper of shame. Instead of seeking forgiveness, she chooses revenge. Quietly, carefully, Mama Vero begins to search for dark knowledge. She remembers old stories told by elders long before the curse. Stories of forbidden rituals, older than the village itself. Rituals that were never written down, rituals passed only to those willing to sacrifice their conscience. She convinces herself that if she can bring Zara down, the village will suffer again, and then they will understand her pain. One night, Mama Vero leaves her hut quietly. She carries items wrapped in cloth. She walks far beyond the village boundary, into a forest where even hunters fear to enter. There, under a dying tree, she performs a forbidden ritual. She calls names that should not be called. She pours offerings into the earth and whispers her desire. She asks for only one thing, that Zara should fall alone. The ritual listens. Days later, Queen Zara begins to notice something strange. At first, it is small. She finds strands of hair on her mat when she wakes. She assumes it is normal. Hair sheds sometimes. But then it happens again. And again. Soon, when she washes her hair, more strands fall into her hands than usual. Zara grows concerned. She does not speak of it immediately. She does not want to alarm anyone. But deep inside, she feels a strange weakness she cannot explain. Her strength feels drained. Her sleep becomes restless. Then one morning, as her maid helps her dress, the maid freezes. Zara's hair has thinned. Within days, it becomes impossible to hide. Zara's once full hair begins to fall in patches. The queen starts covering her head with cloth. The people notice. Whispers return to the village. Women gather and talk quietly. Men shake their heads in worry. Children ask questions their parents cannot answer. Mema Vero watches from her hut, smiling for the first time in years. She fuels the whispers. She tells people the curse has returned. She reminds them that curses do not disappear easily. She says perhaps Zara was never pure after all. Slowly, doubt spreads like smoke.